Hello everyone, and welcome back to a virtual farm tour here at Chatsworth Farm. It has been a while since we have last done one. It's been really busy out here during harvest and then everyone getting back to school, so I thought we would kind of start them up again and maybe even start doing them more regularly on weekdays in evenings for after school. So we're going to see how that goes, and let me know if you have a particular preference of what day works best for you, and we can kind of tailor it to what the majority is looking for. So right now it is a little bit of an overcast day. It was raining earlier this morning. It stopped now, so harvest is at a little bit of a slow. Everyone is waiting for it to dry up. You can't harvest when the grain is wet, because if you combine it while it's wet and you put it into a bin, it'll start to heat and rot and spoil, so it needs to be completely dry. So everyone who's harvesting is not today, but the animals are still here and they don't mind whether it's raining or sunny, so we're going to check them out and see all the different things that have been happening here. I have some corn with me that I just picked from our field, and I'm going to give it to some of the cattle since they really quite enjoy that as a treat. But we're going to start in our bullpen, and in addition to some of the bulls, we do have one cow in here and her calf. We have some of our broiler chickens, so these are our meat birds that are going to be going in for processing next week. So they are enjoying life right now outside in the pens with the cattle. And you would think that some of the biggest animals and some of the smallest animals on the farm wouldn't always get along that well together, but they actually do cohabitate really nicely. So the chickens just jumped up in here into the cattle's bale feeder, and the chickens are picking through the hay, which has insects and leaves in there. So the chickens find some of the things that the cattle don't find interesting or that appealing. So everyone gets along very well. So these chickens are they're broilers, and so they're a Cornish cross, so they are specifically bred for meat birds. And then the rest of the chickens that we have, those are our layers, so they're specifically for laying eggs. And these broilers we got as day-olds from a hatchery in just north of Edmonton in Westlock. So they come to us via mail at our local UFA farm supply store, and then we pick them up and we raise them. So we got these broilers on June 23rd. So we raise them a little bit more slowly so that they are a little bit more healthy throughout their development. So it takes a little bit longer, but you end up with really great quality chicken. This is only a small part of the flock. They like to venture all the way out where the cattle are, so you can scan and see there's a tiny two little white dots at the far end of the screen. Those are two more of them, so they really like to follow where the cattle are. Not so much now because it has gotten a little bit cooler, but the cattle will kick up insects and bugs, and so the chickens will follow along and snap those up really quickly. So we can go back and see where the rest of them are, including the turkeys. And Lizzie is here with me. So we have Lizzie here who watches the chickens to make sure that we don't have any predators come around, because the chickens do like to venture off a little bit further than sometimes is safe for them. We have the dog here, so she makes sure that there are no predators like coyotes or foxes or skunks around. So that's her job. Come on, Lizzie. This is one of our Simmental bulls. This is Raleigh. So he was put out with the cows this summer. Now all of our bulls are back in pens that are just filled with bulls. So they've finished their breeding, and we'll look forward to seeing their calves in the spring. So now it's a time for the bulls to relax and kind of gain some of their condition back, so their body weight, because when they're out on pasture with all the cows, it takes a lot of energy and work for them to breed all of them. So this is a good opportunity for them to gain some condition back. So we can enjoy Lizzie's, whatever this is. Come on, Liz. Come on. There you go. Trying to hold corn, open gates, and do all that lovely stuff is kind of tricky sometimes. So this is our alley. So if anyone is new watching, our farm is located north of Vermilion, which is about 2 hours east of Edmonton. And we have a mixed farm. So we have cattle, as you saw before. We have a total herd of 500 head, and most of them are commercial, so they're crossbreds. But then my brothers do own a herd of some purebred black Angus and some Simmental. We have chickens, ducks, geese, and turkeys, plus sheep. And then we have the dog, and we have some cats. So Lizzie's our livestock guardian dog. She's a Great Pyrenees. And then the cats are barn cats. We raise 2 different kinds of poultry. So we have our egg layers, and then some of our heritage turkeys that we use for breeding and then for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then we have our meat birds, so our meat turkeys and our meat chickens, who are all right over here. So they get to occupy the calving barn. So this barn is what we used for calving in the spring. So when our cows have their calves, they all go in here when it's a little bit colder. And then in the summer, we use it for our meat birds. So the big ones, the ones that kind of tower above all the other chickens, those are the turkeys. So you can see they hop in and out through that door, and then they put themselves in at night. So it makes it quite easy. And even on rainy days like today, they don't mind going outside, but they'll spend a little bit more time inside, out of the elements. But they can just hop in and out whenever they choose to. And sometimes it can be a little tricky when we have Lizzie sitting out here and we'll be looking for her, and she'll just be surrounded by white chickens and white turkeys. So that's what you get for having a white dog. Okay. But we'll have some of these chickens going in for processing next Thursday, and then the rest will follow soon after. So we get them done at a provincially inspected facility at our local Hutterites. So we raised quite a few this year, the most that we've ever have. But it makes it a lot easier when they're able to be outside and eating all the grass and just cleaning up the yard too, because we don't have any cattle around here. So they keep the grass nice and short. We're going to move over to the other cattle and give them the corn. Come on, Lizzie. So we have our layers. So the broilers sort of stay on the south side of the yard, and then the layers kind of stay on the north side. It's just where their pens and their barns are, and they kind of create that natural division, so they don't really mingle with one another. Not that they can't or that they shouldn't, but they just sort of know that they're different and they stick to their sides. So we have them all outside. These are all of the layers. Then some of the ducks and geese and turkeys. So the same thing with the broilers, where we have a curious one. They all put themselves inside at night. So that makes the job quite a bit easier. So this nice red and white turkey in front here is a bourbon red. I have 3 of them, and then I have 3 bourbon red crosses. So these turkeys are going to be used for breeding next year, so hopefully we'll be able to get some eggs and hatch out some turkey poults next year, so we're able to raise our own turkeys instead of getting them from the hatchery. And this is where we've been parking all of our machinery that's been in heavy rotation right now. The first one, the green one with the yellow, that's a John Deere 4430. So it's attached to our hay rake. So that's what we use to rake together all the windrows once we've cut hay or green feed. It just condenses all of the rows into, so if you had 3 rows, you're going to condense it into 1. So it just makes all of the time spent baling, it cuts it down quite considerably. So it extends, and it's quite a bit wider than what it looks like right here. It's been brought in, and it's 32 feet, I believe. I can't remember exactly, but I will get these exact specs from Nick and Alex. So that's the hay rake. And then this tractor right here is our Fendt. So it's hooked up to a manure spreader, and it was just recently at a neighbor's, so they were at his place cleaning out the corrals. So the manure gets piled up, then it gets put into this big cart, and then this goes out onto the fields, and there are giant, it spreads it out into the field. So I can climb up and show you what it looks like inside. So we do clean it off, and so that'll be a job that Alexander's going to do, but we're going to clean our pens out first, so we're not going to clean it off until we're done with ours. Just saves some time. So if I can get up here easily. Sometimes it's a little harder when I have a camera, but we'll try. Anyway, this is what it looks like from the back. So this is what the manure gets spread with. So it throws it quite far. And if you wanted to see it in action and what it looks like from above, since I won't be able to get up there easily with the phone in my hand, we have some of the drone videos that Alex has made on our YouTube channel. So then you can see it in action and what it looks like. So you can find that there. Then this implement at the front, it doesn't look like much just sitting here, but this is our triple mower. So this gets attached to the Fendt. So just like the manure spreader is attached to the Fendt like this, the triple mower gets attached in a very similar way using the PTO, which is the power takeoff. So that's that yellow bar at the front. So this bigger section of the triple mower gets attached to the back, and then there's a second piece here that gets attached to the front. Same thing with the PTO, and then it cuts the hay. So this is the first step in the haying process. So once this gets cut, and this will make 3 different windrows, that's where you'll take the hay rake and you'll rake those 3 windrows together. And then at the back, where we were a little bit before, those red boxy looking things, those are the round balers, and those are what we make the bales with. So it takes quite a few pieces of machinery and different implements to be able to do different tasks, whether you're haying or seeding or during harvest time. And usually a lot of the tractors will play different roles, so they'll have different implements attached to them. But certain implements like this rake or the triple mower only have one job. But then you'll have other machines that are able to do a few different things. It's starting to really look nice and fall-like out here. And we still only have a few of our cattle. We'll be making trips to go and gather up the rest. So we'll be bringing them home once harvest is finished. So we have one of our bulls over here. He's a black Angus purebred. And we have a few of the few cows in here, and then steers and 2 of our heifer bulls. So the heifer bulls are the ones that were in with the heifers, and they are a year old. So they're the same age as the heifers they're in with. And this is my cow and her calf. The cow's name is Century, and she was one of my old 4-H cows. My brothers and I were all in 4-H when we were younger. And so we were in the beef club and had our cattle projects. So she is one of mine from 2009 to 2012. So she's quite an old girl herself. And this is her calf from this year. He's a steer calf. So we know, even though I can identify her just by looking at her, just in case someone needs to come by and figure out which cow Century is, they'll be able to identify her by her number. And then she also has 4-H written on her tag. Whenever you had a project in 4-H, they would get a specific 4-H tag that was green, but she's since lost that one. So now she has her makeshift 4-H tag. So these cattle aren't quite as used to corn as some of the other ones. I've been giving them some corn as a treat for some of the other videos. But she might not be that hungry or that interested in it yet. But we'll see if the steers are. We grow corn. We started growing corn last year, and we are growing it again this year, and we make it into silage for the cattle and the sheep. And we feed it to our females since it's very high in energy. And as the cows are going through the winter, they need a lot of energy as they're pregnant, and they're working on staying in condition themselves, as well as growing the calf inside them. So corn is really good for that. Right now, because the grass, it's been freezing a couple of nights here, and because the grass has stopped growing, we are supplementing the cattle that are here around the yard with hay bales. This one in particular is a green feed bale. So the green feed can be made from any cereal grain. So this one is specifically made with oats. So you cut it while it's still green, and then you make it into a big round bale. So the same process that you would hay, but it's just a cereal grain that's still green. So Lizzie likes the corn a bit more than the cattle do. Lizzie! There goes the corn cob. We'll leave some for the steers and these guys over here, but they're not overly interested in the corn. But if they were to get out into the cornfield, it would be a different story. So this animal in front of me is a steer, so he's a castrated male. We have 3 of them in this pen. They're the last ones of our calf crop from 2019. And so the steers are what we use as beef. And so these 3 steers will be going in for processing in October. So we try and make sure that they are in good condition. So which they are. They've been gaining quite a bit of weight, and you can see that from just by looking at them. So when the steers came out onto grass a little bit earlier this spring, their rear end was a little bit more flat, so a little bit more like a square end, but now you can see that they're starting to fill out, and their rear is starting to become a little bit more round. So that's a good indication that they are becoming finished. So that's a term that you use when you're talking about beef. So he's becoming finished, and you can see that they have really good condition to them. So that's a good thing that we want to see. And then with the male animals that we have, whether it's sheep or cattle on our farm, they get the blue tags. And then what you would have seen in Century's ear, because she's a female, she gets a yellow tag. And then they get numbered. So this steer is 473C. So the C represents the year he was born. And then the number below him, or below that one, is 473G. And that's the tag number of his mother. So the calves get the tag numbers of their mothers. And then on the side, we'll write down the name or the tag number of the bull, so the sire of this calf. Or if there were two bulls put out with his mother, then we'll write both on there so we're able to have an idea of which sire this calf is from. So to give you another kind of idea of that, this calf here, this steer calf, is out of Raleigh. So that bull that we saw earlier, and you can really tell that he's pretty likely to be a calf out of Raleigh because he is almost identical in color. And this calf was also, Raleigh was the only bull in with his mother. So you can see that his tag looks a little bit different. So in the case where some of the animals will have a few extra numbers, that means that we already have an animal with that existing number. So we'll just take the one number that we have and maybe add a 0 to it or another numeral in front. But we try and stay consistent with the numbers. And then with the bulls who we purchase from other producers, they will come with their own numbers and their own kind of tagging system, and everybody is different. There's no rule as to what you have to do, so everyone's is a little bit changeable depending on how they like to do it. So this bull is a Black Angus, and so Black Angus tags are green from the association. So his tag is green, and then it's just 30G, and that's all it is. If you were to go back and look at his papers, because with any purebred animal, they get papered, so just like a purebred dog or purebred horses, cattle have the same thing as well. So if you were to go back and look at his papers, you'll see who his mother and his sire are. So even though it's not necessarily indicated on his tag, doesn't mean that we don't know who it is. So that's one of the heifer bulls. This is another one of the heifer bulls. So he's a Black Angus as well, but you can see his tag is just a darker blue, and then they have their own set system of tagging. Right now he's also chewing his cud. Cattle are ruminants, so they have one stomach that has 4 compartments in it. So as they chew their feed, whether it's grass or hay, they will ingest it, they will chew it, and they usually chew their cud as they're lying down. It just helps them to process. It'll go through all 4 stomachs until it's completely digested. So they'll bring it back up each time, chew it more, and then swallow it, and it'll make its way through all 4 stomachs. Sheep are also ruminants as well, so they go through the same process. But horses are not, so they only have 1 stomach, just like a human, so they will digest their food more similarly to humans than cattle and sheep do. So cattle spend quite a bit of their time chewing their cud and lying down. Cattle also only have front teeth on their bottom. They do have molars all the way at the back, but they don't have any top teeth at the front. And the same with sheep, but then horses have top teeth on the front and bottom. So even though they're all grazers, they are developed differently to manage how they eat. So we're gonna go check out the ducklings that I had hatch out last week and then yesterday. It's a little bit late to be hatching out anything, but my female duck had a failed hatch earlier this spring, so she decided to start laying again. So she is been a little bit tricky to kind of pinpoint when she's going to be sitting on her eggs, and she's taking her sweet time to kind of do that. So I moved her eggs under some broody hens that I had. So we had 10 ducklings hatch out last week, and then we had 3 ducklings hatch out today, both by 2 different hens. And even though female ducks are called hens, the hens that hatched these ducklings out are chickens. So you can mix and match what eggs go under what females, and so that's what we've done right here. So we can see the mother in here. It is a chicken mother, but the babies that she has are ducklings. And she has 10 of them under there. So I'm going to try and get her to sit up. And out will pop a bunch of ducklings. So these ducklings, the mother of these ducklings is one and the same. So it's my only female Rouen duck that I have. And then the males, the father of these ducklings, I'm pretty certain they are Rouens as well, because they all have the markings of Rouen, the Rouen breed. But I do have 5 different males, and one of them is a Pekin. So potentially some of these could have Pekin genetics in them, but it's just not apparent by their appearance. So the ducklings grow quite quickly. They grow a lot more quickly than chicks do. So that's why I'm fairly comfortable with having her raise them outside, even though it can get a little bit cooler at night. And we've had some nights where it's been freezing, but the ducklings gather under her like they just did, and they keep quite warm. And as they grow, they're able to keep themselves a bit warmer every day as well. So I'm going to grab one of them because I want to show you a comparison. It's always tricky grabbing them. Oh, you're okay. So you can see how big they are and how difficult they are to hold at this point when they're just over a week old. And they're very loud too. But one of the differences is between chickens and ducklings is that if you had been watching some of the tours before and you had seen the hen with chicks, and if you had seen when the hens would rapidly cluck to their chicks to kind of encourage them to come over and check out whatever food, or if there was any insects or something specifically interesting for those babies to eat, the hen would rapidly cluck and the chicks would all come over. But the hen will do that in the same instance with the ducklings, but the ducklings are not, they aren't hardwired in to recognize that call. So the hen will cluck to the ducklings, but that's not something that a female duck would do. So the ducklings are kind of unsure what the hen is asking them to do, since it's not genetically part of their code. So it kind of takes a little bit of time for the ducklings and the hens to figure one another out, but they do quite well. The one thing the hen has to get used to when she has ducklings is to kind of understand that her babies are going to really enjoy water, where chicks only drink water just for the sake of when they're thirsty, where ducks love water. So we have a much larger tub in here for them so they can splash around, and that's something that the hen wouldn't generally be recognized as commonly occurring behavior. So they're doing really well, and the same thing, they're in one of our crates, so we move this around every morning so they get fresh grass. because the ducklings like to splash around, they make quite a bit of more of a mess than chicks do. So usually I've been moving it around twice a day. So those are the week-old ducklings. And we're going to go look at the other crate now. And it has the day-old ducklings in it. So they're going to be much easier to get. But they're all the way in the back. So this is another hen that had hatched out some ducklings. So she was bruised. So this is a duckling at a day old. So much smaller and easier to hold. And on this duckling too, you can kind of see that little white spot at the tip of its bill. That's called the egg tooth. So that's what chicks, ducklings, goslings, turkeys, and any bird uses to help chip their way out of the egg. So they'll pip all the way around until they've created sort of a little stitch all the way around the cap of the egg. And then they'll use their feet, whether it's webbed feet or just regular chicken feet, and they'll push their way out. So the egg tooth will dissolve quite quickly, so you can tell that this duckling is quite new because you can still see that egg tooth. So there you can see her other babies. So she has 3. She started with 5 eggs, so 2 didn't hatch, but that's okay. 3 is still pretty good. And the duckling that I did have, you can tell that its face is a little bit darker than the other 2, so that's where you might consider that the male of that breed is a little bit different. But it's hard to tell until they get a little bit older and they start developing their feathers. So we have the kittens over here. We do have one female who is pregnant again, so we're going to be having a few more kittens. And then lastly, we'll finish off today's tour with a quick look in this chicken house. These are the chicks that hatched out at open farm days that were a day old there. So they've moved inside with their hen, so they're getting to enjoy cobs of corn. They really enjoy corn. So that's one of the treats that we'll give to them. So this is what the chicks look like after pretty much a month's worth of growing. So they're almost completely feathered. Some of them still have a few feathers left to grow in places. And so once they're fully feathered, then they just start growing to size. And there are 35 in here, and they are a mix of different breeds, so it'll be exciting to see what they look like as they get older. So they still sleep with the hen. They will all huddle underneath her. I got some grain dust in my throat. So they will all still huddle underneath her at night, even though they're fully feathered, and they don't really need her that much. But it's just a connection thing, but I'll give them a few more weeks, and then the hen can go back in with the rest of the chickens. Liz. Hey, be nice. Come on, be good. There we go. So then we have the rest of the yard, and we have the cats and the ducks and the geese that are all out. So I'll do that quickly. We usually do that at noon, but usually on a tour, I like to leave that until the tour so you can see all the hens come out. As the chickens get a little bit more mature, they decide that they don't love to go outside so much in rainy weather, so they kind of spend more time inside. But it has stopped raining, so they're coming outside for a little bit, but they'll probably go inside after a while. So that's the tour for today. I apologize for the coughing. I need to go get some water, but we got to see quite a bit today. And if anyone is interested, we are doing a in-person farm tour, a farm visit next Saturday on the 26th. So tomorrow is our last day to register. We're going to be doing a tour of the animals here, and then we're going to be going out to the fields. Next weekend is looking really good for temperatures, so hopefully we will be out in the fields and you can go for a ride in some of the machinery. We're going to be making some wheat sheaves, and then we're going to have a meal in the field, which is a typical thing that everyone loves during harvest. So if you're interested in trying that out, let us know. You can leave a comment below or send us a message. Hopefully we'll see you there. We only have 3 spots left. And if not, we will see you on our next tour, which will be October the 4th. Have a great day, everyone, and have a good rest of your Sunday. Bye.